Welcome people to Bitcoin Live, another interesting and very exciting show. Another favorite project of mine, Decred. I got a guest on the show. His name is PurpleSuede. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm super glad to be here. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I got two of my favorite coins on the show. First Digibyte, now Decred. But before we dive into that, can you tell our viewers, our audience, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to. So I've been in the crypto space since about 2014. So I've been around for quite some time. I like to tell people that I got in and didn't buy Bitcoin because it was too expensive at $150 per coin, which is actually how I found Decred. So my wife, then fiance, Grandma Escher, if you're looking at my Twitter profile, she's tagged there. Her brother was into Bitcoin big. He had just bought his house with Bitcoin profits back in the day, like 2013. And so as a college student, I was like, oh my God, I need to get into this. This is going to be huge. Was super discouraged when I found out that Bitcoin was so expensive and started doing research. And that's actually how I found out about Decred. So right at the time, they were just in forums and such. And I was super interested and taught myself how to essentially run the command line code to get the airdrop. So I got the airdrop and I've been in since then. Really got my start in the crypto space by writing about cryptocurrency. So I was in early enough where there weren't a lot of resources for beginners like me, just kind of clearly explaining, hey, this is what cryptocurrency is. Here's why it matters. Here's how you can research it from a value perspective. So I started writing and, one thing led to another. And before you knew it, I had an audience of like 5,000 or 6,000 people. 2017 happened and crypto exploded. Then we went through the biggest bear market we've ever seen. And so it's been a really long growing process for me. I'm currently working for RoundlyX, which is how I actually found out about your podcast because of Digibyte, ironically enough. So RoundlyX is like the acorns for cryptocurrency. They round up your spare change from your everyday purchases into whatever cryptocurrency you like, including Digibyte. I'm working with them right now to get Decred roundup, so hopefully soon. But then I also work with Cointelegraph and Blizzard.money as a marketing and communications professional, which I'm very happy to say I do full time. It's always been my dream to be a crypto professional, if you will. And I was actually just selling insurance and all that good jazz until just this past April. So it's a very small glimpse into who I am, what I'm doing, and how I got started.
That's a very interesting bio you got there, and it's also our dream to go full-time crypto. We aren't there yet.
You can make it.
But you mentioned something really interesting because you told me before, but Digibyte and Decred are both one of your favorites, or two of your favorites, I should say. And they're also two of my favorites. But why do you prefer Decred above Digibyte?
Yeah, it's a great question. So they're both OG coins, if you will. They've been around the block. I respect both of them for various reasons. Speed and efficiency, cheapness of transactions, both incredible. For me, honestly, it was just kind of a timing thing. I was doing research, as I said, after I was discouraged about Bitcoin, which, full disclosure, now I call myself a Bitcoin most-minimalist, right? I try and stack as much Bitcoin as possible, but fully believe in good projects. But yeah, so Decred, I stumbled across their forums. Their community was just incredible. They took me in. I literally had a friend, I don't know if he's still around or active, but @Peanut was one of my close Decred friends back in the day who made a YouTube tutorial video for me because I was trying to do the command line airdrop on my Mac. And there weren't really any walkthroughs then. So they really just took me in and included me. And so I was just, I was won by the community pretty much right away. Didn't find out about Digibyte for essentially until the 2017 run, where I got a small bag, made some money off of it. But it's always been on my radar, especially in RoundlyX, just because, it's such a cool coin to be able to round up every time you swipe your credit card, you get some Digibyte. And truth be told, I was crawling through the GIF section of Twitter looking for some content to share that would be, cool and entertaining. And Digibyte has some of the coolest GIFs on Twitter. If you haven't looked, I highly recommend just going through and searching Digibyte. There's some great GIFs out there. So yeah, that's kind of my answer there. The community and then the airdrop kind of won me for Decred.
Yeah, I also what I really love about Decred is their style. They have a very professional, accessible, and very uniform style with some really great content out there. So for people who have no idea what Decred is, you just go to YouTube, type in Decred, and you get some really amazing, very useful explanatory videos out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great, and one of the reasons that is because of their decentralized treasury. While we're talking about Decred, we can kind of go chronologically or bounce back and forth, but man, they actually just recently fully decentralized their war chest treasury. So all the funds that they've been building up that are used for development, marketing, all that stuff, they completely turned over to the users. I think it was on May 7th, and so on their I can't ever remember how to pronounce this. I think it's Politia, or I always refer to it as PI, but it's their DAO, their decentralized autonomous organization, where Decred holders like me can vote on proposals. So, if you had a proposal for Decred and you had a great YouTube video that you wanted to be paid for, you could submit a proposal onto the system there, and then users get to critique your proposal. It goes through editing process, and then it goes up to a vote. And the cool thing is that if you convince the holders that your marketing is good and necessary, you're going to get funding from the Decred treasury, and that's really cool. Not a lot of currencies out there have a decentralized treasury like that, so it's a big plus in my book, for sure.
Yeah, I actually spoke to a couple of Digibyte people like Specman and others. And one of their critiques of Decred was exactly the treasury system. But like you explained right now, it is a decentralized treasury system. And I think Decred has a lot of interesting features that are all focused on making it as decentralized and fair as possible. Could you dive into a little bit of those different kind of features? I'm thinking about the mining and staking. It's a very unique consensus mechanism.
Yeah, that was actually one of the coolest things. I was very fortunate to find Decred early because it's truly one of the few pure hybrid proof of stake, proof of work coins out there. There's so many debates going on right now about proof of work versus proof of stake. And Decred says, well, why not both? Why can't we have proof of work mining that's just as secure and unbreakable as Bitcoin's code? And then why can't we include the community with staking and have all of those benefits too? And I feel like that really cuts out some of the negative aspects of that. So what a really cool stat that I actually love. I went through my Twitter and went through all the hashtags and found the cool stats that I like about Decred. But currently 47% of the total circulating supply of Decred is locked up in proof of stake, which is incredible. I mean, talk about building scarcity, building trust and value in the system. The users trust the system so much that they're willing to stake 47% of the circulating supply. And aside from a scarcity benefit, something else that's really cool is I was actually SimSwap hacked in 2017. I lost about 50% of my portfolio, and the hacker couldn't get my Decred because it was in proof of stake. So it was locked up. And I'm really thankful for that aspect of the Decred consensus mechanism, just for the security standpoint. So yeah, it's really cool. There's not a lot of coins out there that are doing it well.
No, and we should also mention that it was founded or created, I should say, by Yocom-Piatt, I think his name is, in 2015. So it is a completely separate chain. And I think he created it also because he was kind of worried about how centralized Bitcoin actually is. Because a lot of people are not fully aware of some of the risks also involved with Bitcoin. Yeah. My personal opinion has always been that's why I'm both a Digibyte and a Decred fan, and also I also like Monero and Chainlink. But Digibyte and Decred I also always saw as a sort of like successors to Bitcoin. If Bitcoin fails, I would suspect one of these two would take over. In case that happens, what is your view on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So when I originally started writing about Bitcoin and Decred, like I said, I'm currently a Bitcoin mostmalist. But when I first got into crypto, I was under the impression that something would definitely take over Bitcoin one day. Yeah. I'm not as convinced now. I think Bitcoin's probably going to be around for the long haul. But the way I like to think about Decred is like the checking account to your savings account for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is like, this is going to be what you save in. This is your generational wealth. Decred is efficient, it's private, it's fast. You can earn interest on it with staking. So I think honestly, and especially with the way that atomic swaps are being added in with the Decred DEX, the decentralized exchange, it's being added into the native wallet, which I think is an incredible upgrade. I run Decredition myself. All of my coins are mixed. I'm always staking. And, the DEX is going to be huge because you can mix all of your Decred, you can swap it for Bitcoin. And it's another really fast way, if you think about it, to actually have private Bitcoin. So I think both of them will exist in tandem, either Decred or Digibyte or something like, the little brother to Bitcoin that's faster and scalable. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because the decentralized exchange allows you to swap for Bitcoin and for Litecoin, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Currently, and there's actually upgrades in the pipeline to get ERC20 tokens on there too. So they're growing really fast. And, Decred could really be the mechanism that brings DeFi to Bitcoin. A lot of people say that Lightning Network is going to be there, but I love Lightning. For the record, I don't want to get all of the cyber hornets after me for saying Lightning Network isn't successful, because it is. But the way that Decred is so decentralized, there's incentive for people to move fast, and we could see DeFi on Bitcoin through Decred faster than through Lightning. I think that's highly possible.
And Yocom, of course, also worked on Bitcoin before he did Decred.
That's correct, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, you now also have Litecoin Lightning Network on Decred, or Lightning variant on.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that was. I actually don't have the date here in front of me, but that is a big feature. I'm going to be playing with it soon. It hasn't been on my priority. It's just crazy in crypto. You have so many things that you're like, I've got to do this kind of thing. So that's on my list. I'll get there soon. But yeah, I mean, Decred has Lightning and it's keeping up. Yeah, it's really cool. I did want to point out one quick stat that I had written down here about the airdrop. So only 3,200 people participated in the airdrop. And every person got 258.93, and then it goes on forever, Decred. So if you held all of those 259 tokens, I figured as of April 13th, so we've gone down quite a bit since then, but as of April 13th of this year, the airdrop was worth like just over $50,000. So the amount, like people talk about Uniswap airdrop being worth a lot of money. I mean, the Decred airdrop is one of the most overlooked airdrops in crypto. And, I think that attitude of move big, include the community is something that's going to keep it around for a long time.
Yeah. Sure. Are you now talking about that first airdrop that they did when they launched Decentralized? Yep. Yeah. Are you aware if they are going to do it again?
That's a great question. I could definitely see a proposal for some sort of layer 2 solution, or, heck, if somebody wants to write a good airdrop proposal and put it onto, the PI system, it could pass. I could see that being, like a big deal, especially if we could, implement Bitcoin holders or something like that with atomic swapping. Who knows? I mean, possibilities are truly endless with the decentralized voting system.
One of the other exciting features about Decred is the community. It's the same thing as with Digibyte. It has a very active, very engaged, very enthusiastic community, which is really, I think it shows the health of a project if it has such a community. Yeah. But also with Digibyte, it seems it's a little bit insulated sometimes.
Sure.
Do you also think they should do more outreach towards the broader community?
Yeah, so that's something that's always in discussion if you pop into the Telegram group or the Discord server for Decred. A lot of people are always talking about more marketing, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think that if we were to have a big marketing push, it would definitely help. But at the same time, Decred has sustained organic growth through this whole cycle. I mean, it keeps up with Bitcoin fairly well. It doesn't get hammered like most other alts do. And I think that's because we're kind of insulated to one degree. We have, the treasury armor to help protect and sustain developments during down seasons, and that's really important. But I mean, that being said, there's lots of people like me who are out here spreading the good Decred word for free, really. I haven't ever really accepted any funds from the Decred treasury. I just believe in it. So I think more adoption is going to keep that going. And this next run, I have a pretty good feeling that Decred's going to be, a top 50 to a top 10 coin, and it's going to be inevitable that people are going to be talking about it. If you've looked back on my Twitter at all, I mean, I'm mega bullish. I think 1 to 4,000 range per Decred is going to be reasonable for this next cycle, because I still don't think that the bull market cycle is over. So yeah, I expect that to happen. Yeah,
personally, I was also aiming for 1,000, but 4,000 is nice too.
Yeah, and for the record, the 4,000 one was based off of like a parabolic chart that someone charted out, so it wasn't something that I'm like, oh, I see this target. But to me, $1,000 is a nice, psychological level. I will be competing with Litecoin for that, and mark it down. I think it's possible Decred could hit 1,000 before Litecoin does. We'll have to see, obviously, but I'd like to be on record as being one of the people to say that if it happens.
Well, I totally agree with you. I think it's a rock solid project, and I think when I first learned about Decred, their consensus system it just blew my mind, and I thought they were so far ahead when it comes to governance. I think they basically invented governance, and still, when you look at all those other projects that are trying to do it, they don't even come close to what Decred already has established. Yeah, and I find it kind of weird that they are still not, that so many people are sleeping on that aspect of Decred, and why they aren't sort of copying or implementing something similar, because I think there's nothing better out there, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I mean, whenever people talk about, DAOs, obviously that comes with a bad taste in your mouth because of all of the hacks that have happened. But Decred is the real decentralized autonomous organization. There is nothing else that compares to it. You're very right. And I think people sleep on it because they're scared. I think Decred, people know that Decred is going to be a powerhouse, and people are trying to get their money from their blockchain schemes, whether or not it's a scam. I mean, before something like Decred takes over. So, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think Decred's going to grow and compete, and there's not much anyone's going to be able to do about it. So to me, that's exciting because I'm loaded up and ready to go.
Yeah, it's a sleeping giant, and at a certain time it will wake up, or people will wake up to it.
Right.
I think their slogan also secure, sustainable, and adaptive. I think that really captures what Decred is all about. Because with Bitcoin, if there's like what you call a hiccup or something, a fork, and that causes a lot of commotion and uncertainty and confusion. Yeah. And also with implementation, all these kind of issues, it's very hard to look over the horizon for Bitcoin to see where it will go exactly, and also the centralization issues. But with Decred, you sort of solve all these things in one fell swoop. I think it's quite brilliant, actually.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out too, for those who may not know, Decred is actually making some moves in the institutional world. Cathie Wood from ARK Investment has listed Decred as one of her top coins that she's looking to acquire. Liquidity is obviously a problem because a lot of big exchanges haven't listed Decred. And I think that that's on purpose. Again, I think big exchanges are intimidated by how truly decentralized Decred is. And you don't want to necessarily, from a centralized perspective, have to deal with a bunch of rabid decentralized voters who decide the fate of the network when you just want to list a coin and make money. So, to smart people like Cathie Wood, that makes a lot of sense. It's an investment that's almost guaranteed to produce a great return. It's here for the long haul. So I think as soon as we see some liquidity added in a little bit larger exchanges, people like her are going to be buying, and that's going to send us up, because with 47% of the supply staked, there's not that much for sale. So y'all get buying.
No, I totally agree. And that was one of my questions, is why isn't it listed on more exchanges? Because it's not that easy to buy. I mean, it is, if you know where to look, it isn't hard. But a lot of people are, of course, using Binance or Coinbase. Or whatever. Personally, I'm situated in the Netherlands, so I was using Bitfavo, and they do have it, but then you need to sort of verify your wallet. It's
it's a hassle.
It's a hassle and a headache, and it isn't, it's not the ethos. So, that's basically a choice from Decred, or it's?
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street. I've been a part of conversations on trying to get listed on different exchanges in the Decred PI system, and frankly, the fees that people ask for listing are just ridiculous. And the Decred system is like, hey, we really don't need y'all because, sure, there's not enough liquidity, but we'll get there on our own. That's how we've always done it. We're not going to pay these ridiculous fees. So I think the first exchange to say, hey, we want to work with y'all because having liquidity is going to bring massive user base to our exchange, they're going to be the ones that fire off and really grow because there's not really anybody that lists Decred. That being said, KuCoin could be a good option. That's typically where I go if I want to just pick up some Decred really quickly. They are pretty good about not having KYC requirements. I think it's non-KYC underneath 2 Bitcoin or something like that. So if you're just looking to scoop up some quick Decred, that's probably the way I would suggest.
Yeah. And what you said earlier, of course, performance-wise, Decred is also doing very well. I think it's still over 200, or is it dropped it below?
Yeah, so with this latest dip, it dropped like everything else did. I was actually just looking at the chart, though. It's at 142 right now. Yeah, it's at 142 currently. And I was just scrolling out to look. I mean, if you look at the 24-hour chart, it's great. 7-day looks really close to the 24-hour. We're pretty much in just an upward trajectory. Once you get out into the 30-day, 90-day, it seems like we've painted a pretty good double bottom there, just like Bitcoin did. So if you're bullish on Bitcoin, I would say time to be bullish on Decred too. I had a tweet that performed really well not too long ago saying, I think this is the last time that we're going to be under $200 Decred. I was off where we had another dip, but it's not going to last for much longer, I don't think. Like I said, I think we see 4-digit Decred by the end of the cycle at the very latest. So
yeah, I personally, I was very happy to scoop up a lot of Decred when it was around $15.
Yeah, me too. It's been a good ride. So I think anything in the $100 range is going to look really attractive very soon.
Yeah, definitely. So what excites you the most about this project, you personally?
Yeah, so man, I really love, actually, from a broader perspective, I love how much of an influence Decred can have in the future on Bitcoin. And not a lot of coins can say that. I'm not talking about, a flippening or anything like that. I think that Decred is going to be like the steroids, if you will, to Bitcoin, because it provides another way for people to be able to easily atomic swap their Bitcoin for Decred. You can mix that Decred way faster and cheaper than you can mix Bitcoin. I know, I've tried. And swap it right back. You have clean Bitcoin immediately. And the fact that, I mean, we've talked this whole time about how Decred is truly decentralized. It's the definition of what people should be striving for. The DEX is going to be that. And I don't know if you've looked at their Twitter. They don't even have 1,000 followers on Twitter yet. But when people start realizing that this is a real decentralized exchange where they can flawlessly swap, mix, swap back for ERC20, Litecoin, Bitcoin, I'm sure XMR won't be far away because, the capability there is pretty similar. Yeah. So that's so powerful. And if you think that, Bitcoin is going into 6 figures, well, Decred's going to be right there along with it. And it's going to be providing services for people that's going to make Bitcoin more private and faster in a way, So that just gets me all worked up. Like I'm super excited about that. The privacy in the DEX, yeah, huge. And it's all in the native wallet. So it's not like you have to be an expert to do any of this stuff. It's just a couple clicks.
Yeah, and the privacy is also an optionality, right? It's not a standard feature as with Monero.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, you can choose whether or not you want to mix your Decred. So whatever side of the fence you fall on there. I personally think privacy is, more valuable. I think, mixed Decred is more valuable to me than unmixed Decred. But to some other people, maybe you want transparency. So either way, it's super easy.
And I think one of the other features that I was really surprised about, what I also very much liked, was the halvening. Of course, Bitcoin has a halvening every 4 years, but Decred solves it by having a 1% decrease in the mining of the blocks every, what was it?
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's much more regular interval where like Bitcoin looks like a it goes long and then there's a huge jump. Decred is more of like a steady step up, so that there's not all of this market whiplash. Yeah, you're very right. I can't believe I forgot to mention that, but that's a great mechanism. And when people complain about volatility, that's Decred's solution to that. So it's very fascinating.
I found it very ingenious, and also what might be very interesting for people who are not familiar with Decred, but after 2027, that block reward will be so small that you basically have to get your Decred before that time. That's
Right.
what it comes down to.
Right. Yeah. The supply is hard caps, just like Bitcoin. So by the time it gets there, it's only going to be what's in circulation.
Yeah.
And just think, if the full circulation is out and everyone is like me and wants their Decred staked with 47% now, we could be looking at 57, 67%. That's some scarcity.
7 is just around the corner. I mean, we're already in 21, so that's just 6 years.
Right. And compared to Bitcoin, where you're like, we're probably not going to be alive at that point, 2140 or whatever it is, maybe we will. Maybe Elon will create some anti-aging solution, but until then.
Yeah, and then just to be clear, it will run for another, I think, 80 years before the last Decred is finally mined, but it will be so
very
small that yeah. So that's very fascinating. And another thing I also wanted to ask, maybe you know about it, is because they have a hybrid system. You have the proof of mining, you have the proof of stake, and together they form Decred. But of course, you have the validators, and they have to sort of validate those blocks. Doesn't that slow down the mining of the blocks?
Yeah, I'm not super qualified to speak on the super technicals of that. If you wanted more details, I would highly recommend docs.decred.org, or you can pop into the Decred Telegram and ask those specific questions. Jay-Z is in the Telegram pretty much 24/7. He's one of the original guys that's been around, answer any questions on that. But yeah, I mean, the validators would slow down the blocks, from what I understand, a little bit, which could, balance out the proof of work versus proof of stake. At least in the short term, I would think. So,
and those validators are basically chosen randomly, right? It's 5 tickets or 5 validators are chosen, and then if 3 of the 5 validate the block, then it gets mined.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I remember this now. Exactly. Yeah. So they have some really great animations with the Decred Stakey as their little guy, and it's they have several good images and videos where you can just watch, and it quickly explains all of that. But it's a really unique consensus mechanism. It's just different than pretty much anything else out there. So it's definitely worth reading up on. Yeah.
So you already sort of answered it, but where do you see Decred go, like in 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we're not. I mean, this is also a broader market question in one way. So, I think that by September, December, we're looking at new all-time highs across the board. Is kind of what I'm thinking. Who knows how long that lasts? We're in an interesting period of time where Bitcoin scarcity could start becoming a problem, especially with institutional buyers like Michael Saylor scooping up unheard of amounts of Bitcoin. And with Decred scarcity and people like Cathie Wood coming in, who knows how long this supply and demand is going to keep this bull run started. I don't want to, fool everyone into thinking we won't go back down, because, if Bitcoin goes to 6 figures, odds that it goes back down to the level that we're at, or 40 or 50,000, are pretty high. I mean, that would be another, 50% decrease. So expect 4 figures, take your profits if you want. But, with everything that you've heard with scarcity in today, it makes more sense, in my opinion, to get enough Decred to be able to stake it, which is a goal. Just like getting 1 full Bitcoin is a goal. But it's crazy to me that those 2 things are becoming comparable now. So, yeah, it's not there yet, but I mean, when I started staking, you could stake for 30 Decred, at a time. And last ticket I bought, I think it was like 206 Decred. So we've come a long ways.
Yeah, you can definitely say it. But it's also a very interesting point you just raised. It's something I often wonder about, because normally, of course, you have market psychology, and that influences price action. So if prices go up, they always go down. It's just market psychology. But that also has to do with supply and demand. And in normal markets, there's always supply. I mean, that, just a feature of markets. But the very strange things with blockchain and some cryptos out there is that there might be situations that there actually is no supply at all, even if you wanted it to.
Yeah.
So, and I think people are underestimating what that could mean. How do you see that play out? For example, imagine that Bitcoin for a certain period is ungettable.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought experiment. There's a great account. I have to look it up. If you look at my Twitter, I'm sure you'll see it. But there's a couple accounts that monitor the outflow of Bitcoin from exchanges.
Yeah.
And so essentially, and that's not sales, right? That's withdrawals to cold storage, which signifies people wanting to keep that Bitcoin off the market. Yeah. So we're seeing play out in front of us, especially, the last couple weeks, it's been a little bit quieter, but during the dip, we were seeing 1,000 to 3,000 Bitcoin per day just leaving exchanges, and that's so much money. We didn't see that in 2017 as much, and with the block rewards being so much higher back then, there was a lot more Bitcoin being produced. But if you start looking at the numbers, eventually these exchanges are going to run out of Bitcoin. I mean, they can't sustain that much withdrawal for a long time. So a simple supply and demand, thought experiment says that the price should go into like a short squeeze scenario where we see GameStop level prices in a short amount of time. I don't know if that's sustainable because, you'll have people, I'm guilty. I'll probably sell off a little bit whenever prices go into the six figures because, I always say on Twitter, everyone asking you, oh, are you scared of this dip? Well, they are like me and bought at 4,000 last year, right? And so, no, of course, we're not scared of this dip because we're sitting at 36,000 right now. So there will be sellers, but I highly doubt that they're going to be able to sell enough to be able to bring, supply levels back to what we would consider normal. And once that's a problem, what happens when governments start buying up Bitcoin like crazy? I mean, El Salvador is doing that now. And, I'm sure once Bitcoin becomes scarce like that, companies and countries are going to start looking for alternatives. And man, Decred's really well positioned for being strong, decentralized, unmanipulatable, very expensive to 51% attack. So you could see, some of that supply problem moving over to Decred, and that'd be a good thing if you're a holder.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly my thinking also. I think, it's like a bucket. And right now the bucket is, not half full, but it's getting close to full. Sure. And as soon as it starts spilling over, it spills over onto all those other projects out there. Because
that's exactly right.
Yeah. But another thing I was wondering about, maybe you have given it some thought, is what happens to those exchanges? Will they go bankrupt or?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, what started me thinking about this whole thing was when PayPal rolled out Bitcoin transactions and sells and stuff, and they announced that they weren't going to initially allow withdrawals. And so, Robinhood is like that; they don't allow you to withdraw your crypto. So essentially, you're trading IOUs, and that makes you wonder: well, is that Bitcoin actually there? And if there was a run on the bank, so to speak, and the Bitcoin wasn't there, then yes, there would be lawsuits. They would go bankrupt. And people that are holding your crypto on exchanges are going to be in big trouble. So you see the campaigns all the time, not your keys, not your cheese. If you're holding your Bitcoin on an exchange and you're not keeping up with the supply outflows and you're not being careful, you could be in big trouble. And there's nobody to make sure that Bitcoin gets paid back to you. So a word to the wise, be careful. I only store, and this is for the record, I want to say this, but this is my personal preference. So whatever anyone is comfortable with, they should do. But I only store 30% at a maximum of my portfolio on exchanges because, Cryptopia was hacked, Mt. Gox was hacked. The list goes on. People lose things all the time. And it may not be a hack, but if supply runs out, the effect is going to be the same.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, the price runs up, so the hacking becomes more interesting and profitable.
Right.
Unsecured computers, there's so many possibilities out there. But I think the bank run that you just mentioned is certainly also one of them. Which, it's an interesting thought experiment. And of course, there will always be a back and forth. People want to pay they want to pay for things. So they'll spend their Bitcoin and someone else will get the Bitcoin or the Decred. So there will always be a back and forth and a market out there. But if you don't hold any, it will be very difficult to get in between or get some. They'll go straight to their miners, basically.
Right.
Yeah. And like you say, countries are getting involved. Big institutions will get involved as soon as the regulation. it could disappear like in a snap of a finger.
With regulation, yeah, sure. What's interesting to think about in that respective is, several U.S. legislators have said that they would be crazy to outlaw Bitcoin or change Bitcoin because of, we're already so entrenched into the system. I tend to think that that's going to be more of the case. All politicians love money. And I think more people are starting to wake up to the fact that if we get into Bitcoin and we can control the price of Bitcoin to some degree with our, fiat that we can print endlessly, they could buy up a big bag and then try and do, who knows? I mean, countries operate at a different level than institutions and individuals. And I don't think anybody is ready for what's going to be coming whenever Bitcoin doubles and triples. And now all of a sudden, El Salvador is one of the most rich countries in the world. I think it's going to happen. Everyone's going to be surprised.
Move. Yeah, definitely. And I'm happy for them. And I'm very happy for those developing countries. You also see Cambodia and the Philippines. A lot of those smaller countries that are, they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And they embrace these new technologies, especially Bitcoin, but maybe also Decred or other interesting cryptos out there. And I think they will, they'll profit in a medium to long term. They'll maybe come to the fore, or at least on equal footing with some of the most powerful countries out there.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, the large countries have been in power for so long, and a lot of them aren't making good decisions on monetary policy right now. It doesn't take a genius to see that. So I think we're on the edge of a big shakeup, in terms of global power, and I think it's a good thing. It's time to introduce some chaos in a truly decentralized way. It's cool stuff.
And then you need decentralized credits, of course, or a Decred.
We need a checking account, don't we? We'll save with Bitcoin and we'll spend with Decred or something like that. Who knows?
And just to be clear, 60% of the mining goes, or the rewards goes to the miners, and then 30% goes to the stakers or the validators, and then 10% goes to the treasury that you can do the advertisement, the PR, but also the development, of course, of the core protocol. So it's a very interesting and fair system, and I think they have put in a lot of thought. But it's one of my favorite coins. Like I said, I also love Digibyte, and it's very interesting because Digibyte doesn't work with the treasury, but it still works, and it's extremely decentralized. So you could basically say, because there's nothing to gain from Digibyte, it only attracts people, who want to work on it for.
Yeah, and that's the way that Decred used to be to some degree. I mean, we had to convince people to fund you, and you still do, but now it's truly decentralized. So, I would say for listeners listening, if you're trying to make a choice between either one of them, buy one, do some research. I think it's important to have a little bit of skin in the game while you're doing your research. It adds that incentive, and hop into the chat groups, hop into Decred's Telegram, Digibyte. I'm sure I'm not a part of them right now, but I'm sure Digibyte has some great communities, especially based off of, the information that I see out there. So join, ask questions. These developers are so into having people be a part of their network. They want you to be a part. So you should come in and get involved. It's an incredible thing. And, you never know, you may be like me and one day end up doing it full time for your job. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. I totally agree. People should go there. I put always the links down below in the description box so people can get started right away. And I personally, I would say buy both.
I would too. I think absolutely. I mean, there's no way to know where the market's going to go. Hedging is extremely wise. And I would also take the moment to replug RoundlyX. If you want to be really safe, you can round up your purchases into Digibyte, and it's just cents at a time, and you don't have to worry about timing the market, right? So just set up very simple dollar cost averaging solutions, do your research, and odds are with both of those coins, you'll do really well in the next couple of months.
Yeah, Digibyte also had some really amazing runs. It's the reason that Jared Tate stepped down, because of those huge runs that Digibyte had.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure. I don't envy those guys.
No. Usually the most work is done during the bear markets when things quiet down and there's no mania going on. And one of the interesting things about Jared Tate, for example, was also that he was even considering doing an algo based on the Decred model, a hybrid model of proof of stake.
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
They didn't eventually, but in some of his talks, he was considering it. So
interesting. That would be cool. I mean, you know, hey, maybe you never know how a chain is going to evolve down the road.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, these are two of my favorite coins. I find it very hard to choose between them, but I'm very happy to have you on to talk about it. And yeah, before I let you go, are there any developments on the horizon that you're very excited about, or maybe projects you are working on that people should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely give me a follow on Twitter. I do it for my job. So I'd love to interact with everybody, especially if you're into Decred or in Digibyte. I love those communities. Please give me a follow. I'd love to talk with you. RoundlyX is great. RoundlyX.com. Check them out. Get rounding up. Yeah, I think in terms of Decred developments, I'm really excited to see the next iteration of Decredition with a full DEX integration. If you get in now, I mean, you'll get to participate in that when it drops. So it's a good time, I think. So definitely, yeah, get involved, start chatting with people, and I'd love to hear from people from your stream. I really do appreciate you having me on. I mean, it was so much fun. This is one of the first big podcasts like this I've been able to do, and hey, maybe we'll be able to do it again one time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're also on Periscope and on Twitch and on YouTube. Yeah, it's we're growing, and Decred is growing too, and yeah. We would love to have you back on again.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm super happy to be along with y'all on this ride, man. It's going to be a very interesting next couple of months. And hey, maybe we can have $1,000 Bitcoin excuse me, not Bitcoin, not $1,000 Bitcoin party, $1,000 Decred party once it happens. That would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I knew what you meant, but I hope it wouldn't be a party if Bitcoin goes down to that.
No, I don't think I would have a job anymore.
But yeah, we'll definitely do that. So I want to thank you again for being on the show and for talking Decred with me. And yeah, like I say, you are always welcome to come back on. And yeah, I wish you a very nice, I think, afternoon.
Yeah, still afternoon. I got a couple hours left. I might go take a walk here after this. So appreciate you having me on. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, I can't wait for your Decred giveaway. I'll definitely retweet the winner.
Yeah, there's $20 to give away. So for all those people watching,
get started on your Decred bag today.
Yes, that's it. So take care, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So people, that was a very fun chat. I loved it. I love Decred, and yeah, you now know a little bit more about this amazing project that's out there. I think, yeah, it's not financial advice, of course, but Decred is one of those coins that should be in your portfolio. At least it should be in mine, and I'm glad to have some. And I'm also glad to give some away, because I love to spread adoption, and especially adoption of great projects like Decred. So you can win $20 worth of Decred, DCR. All you have to do is go to Twitter. You know the drill if you follow us. You make a tweet, you tag me, CryptoND1, you tag my brother, Jay Dalmader, and you tag PurpleSuede22. His tag was also below when we were talking, but I'll also put it down in the description box so you can find it. So go to Twitter, make a tweet, tag all three of us, and tell us what you learned or what really excited you about Decred, or about this interview, or about something you learned. It can be anything. Just make a really cool tweet, and the best one wins $20 worth of Decred. And you can start your Decred collection, let's say, your Decred bag with those first $20. And imagine what they will be in a year's time or 5 years' time. So get started, go to Twitter, do the tweet, and we'll pick one in 24 hours, as we usually do. So it's that easy. It's really that easy. Thank you for watching. And I always say two things: watch, learn, and earn, and makes you wonder.